Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Tales of the Valiant Monster Vault. And this is going to be quite different from my typical review. Instead of going through all the monsters, because that's going to take a really long time, instead I'm going to compare a few between their D&D counterparts. Before we take a look at the monsters I've chosen for comparison, there are 3 chapters. We have Using Monsters, Understanding Monster Statistics, and Understanding Terrain and Creature Types. The first chapter is about using monsters, and this goes into detail on how to set up an encounter. This has always been a hot topic in role-playing games. Some systems have very intricate formulas to inform GMs what level of monsters and how many are appropriate for a group at a certain level, while others adhere to the send whatever you want at your players, they can always run away if it's too tough philosophy. The Monster Vault comes with the former philosophy. There's even a nice table that already lists the benchmark or the challenge rating cap you can comfortably throw at your players. And it should be worth mentioning that there are no true hard and fast rules when it comes to this, as each party is going to be different. As a GM, you'll have to gauge what your players can handle, but this actually does serve as a good start. The chapter also goes into different encounter models, such as using a single boss monster or a boss and lieutenants, as well as different monster roles, such as controller, leader, soldier, and striker. There is an optional rule tucked away in here as well. We have Doom. At the start of each combat, the GM gains a special resource called Doom based on the CR of the encounter. The GM can use Doom to influence the results of creature die rolls, turning the tide on the PCs or helping a creature last just one turn longer. The GM can spend Doom in the following ways: give a creature advantage on an attack roll, give a PC disadvantage on a save, once per encounter, refresh, recharge, or otherwise gain one additional use of a limited use feature, such as a dragon's breath weapon, a legendary creature's legendary resistance, or a spell in a mage's spellcasting. The one thing that I will add here is I would definitely not use this so much to give PCs disadvantage on saving throws. That's kind of counter to what being a GM is all about, in my opinion. I would use Doom to influence rolls for the monsters, but directly influencing players should be done very, very limitedly. That's not even a word. It should be done in a limited fashion. Chapter 2 is Understanding Monster Statistics. This is the chapter that simply explains what the stats on a monster mean. Here we'll find how much XP a monster of a certain CR gives, if you play that way. We also have a description of each creature type, and then we get into the stats. One thing that is very much different here is stealth and how hit points are calculated. Stealth is now a static number to beat if they should stalk their prey. I like this. It means that I don't have to roll behind the scenes, because you know that as soon as you do that, as a GM, your players are going to be suspicious of anything and everything. The same goes for perception. It is static, and in order to successfully sneak past a creature, you must roll stealth at or above its perception score, although this is called passive perception in Dungeons & Dragons. HP is also static, and I'm a little bit more on the fence about that than I am with stealth, just because I like to have some variety, but I also see why they've streamlined it. It makes CR adjustments a little bit easier to handle. Chapter 3 is Understanding Terrain and Creature Types. Everything you need to know about creature types, where they live, and who they hang out with, is going to be in this chapter. We have a description of every terrain type, and for each creature type, there is a table that breaks down what creatures pair well with them and where they are likely to be encountered. There's also a nice pronunciation guide. They do this for every creature in the book, so now creating encounters is a little bit easier. I've selected about 5 monsters to compare with their D&D counterparts. For my comparison, I will be using the Monster Vault and the 2014 Basic and 2014 Monster Manual. First up are the Goblins. This encompasses bugbears, hobgoblins, and goblins. In Monster Manual, we have goblins at CR 1/4, Goblin Boss CR 1, Hobgoblin CR 1/2, Hobgoblin Captain CR 3, Hobgoblin Warlord CR 6, Bugbear CR 1, and Bugbear CR 3. In the Monster Vault, we have Goblin CR 1/4, Goblin Captain CR 1, Hobgoblin CR 1/2, Hobgoblin Commander CR 3, Hobgoblin Conjurer CR 2, Bugbear CR 1, and Bugbear Champion CR 4. Your normal goblin in the monster manual will have an AC of 15, HP of 7 or 2d6, with a speed of 30 feet. Their strength is 8, dexterity 14, constitution 10, intelligence 10, wisdom 8, and charisma 8. Their stealth is set at +6. They have dark vision and a passive perception of 9. They have nimble escape, which allows them to take the disengage or hide action as a bonus action on each of its turns. They also use a scimitar with a +4 to hit and 5 or 1d6 + 2 slashing damage, and short bows with a +4 to hit and deals 5 or 1d6 + 2 piercing damage. A goblin in Monster Vault will have an AC of 15, HP of 12, with a speed of 30 feet. Its perception is 9 and its stealth is 14. It has dark vision. Instead of giving us the actual scores for attributes, we get their modifiers. So we have a strength of -1, dexterity of +4, constitution +0, intelligence +0, wisdom -1, and charisma -1. They have nimble escape, which allows them to take the disengage or hide action as a bonus action. They use scimitars with a +4 to hit and deals 5 or 1d6 + 2 slashing damage, and a short bow with a +4 to hit and deals 5 or 1d6 + 2 piercing damage. They also have Gang Up, which can be used once per day. The goblin moves up to half its speed toward a creature it can see. Each friendly goblin within 30 feet of the goblin can use its reaction to join the gang up and move up to half its speed toward the same target. This movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. If the initiating goblin is within 5 feet of the target must make a DC 12 dexterity saving throw, taking 5 or 2d4 bludgeoning damage on a failed save, or have as much damage on a successful one. For each goblin after the first that participated in the gang up and that is within 10 feet of the target, the damage increases by 1 as arrows, knives, sharp pocket scraps, and similar weapons fly at the target from all angles. Afterwards, each goblin after the first that participated in the gang up can't use gang up until it finishes a short or long rest. Hobgoblins in the monster manual have an AC of 18, HP of 11 or 2d8 + 2 with a speed of 30 feet. Their strength is 13, dexterity 12, constitution 12, intelligence 10, wisdom 10, and charisma 9. They have no bonuses in skills. They have dark vision and a passive perception of 10. They have martial advantage, so once per turn, the hobgoblin can deal an extra 7 or 2d6 damage to a creature it hits with a weapon attack if that creature is within 5 feet of an ally that isn't incapacitated. They use longswords with a +3 to hit and 5 or 1d8 + 1 slashing damage, or 6 or 1d10 + 1 slashing damage if used with 2 hands, and longbows with a +3 to hit and deals 5 or 1d8 + 1 piercing damage. Hobgoblins in Monster Vault have an AC of 18, HP of 18, and a speed of 30 feet. Its perception is 10 and their stealth is 8, or 13 without armor. They have dark vision. They have a strength of +1, dexterity +1, constitution +1, intelligence +0, wisdom +0, and a charisma -1. They have tactical analysis. The hobgoblin briefly studies one creature it can see within 30 feet of it. It has advantage on the next attack roll it makes against the creature before the start of the hobgoblin's next turn. That is also a bonus action. I also have multi-attack, so the hobgoblin makes 2 longsword or longbow attacks. They use longswords with a +3 to hit and deals 5 or 1d8 + 1 slashing damage, or 6 or 1d10 + 1 slashing damage if used with 2 hands, and longbows with a +3 to hit with 5 or 1d8 + 1 piercing damage. Bugbears in Monster Manual have an AC of 16, HP of 27 or 5d8 + 5, and a speed of 30 feet. Their strength is 15, dexterity 14, constitution 13, intelligence 8, wisdom 11, and charisma of 9. They have stealth of +6 and survival of +2. They have dark vision and a passive perception of 10. They have brute, which allows them to deal 1 extra die of its damage when the bugbear hits with it, and surprise attack. If the bugbear surprises a creature and hits it with an attack during the first round of combat, the target takes an extra 7 or 2d6 damage from the attack. They use a Morning Star with a +4 to hit and deals 11 or 2d8 + 2 piercing damage, and a Javelin with a +4 to hit and deals 9 or 2d6 plus 2 piercing damage in melee, or 5 1d6 plus 2 piercing damage at range. Bugbears in Monster Vault have an AC of 14, HP of 40, and a speed of 30 feet. Its perception is 10 and its stealth is 16. It has dark vision. Its strength is +5, dexterity +2, constitution +1, intelligence -1, wisdom +0, and charisma -1. They have brutal, which allows them to deal 1 extra die of its damage when it hits with it. They use spike clubs with a +5 to hit and 12 or 2d8 plus 3 piercing damage. Also, a surprise target takes an extra 4 or 1d8 piercing damage and must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution save throw or be stunned until the end of its next turn. They also use javelins with a +5 to hit and 10 or 2d6 plus 3 piercing damage in melee and 5 1d6 plus 2 piercing damage at range. Next, we're going to compare Kobolds. In the monster manual, we have winged kobolds at CR 1.4 and kobolds with a CR of 1.8. In the monster vault, we have kobolds at CR 1.8, kobold swiftblade at CR 3, kobold tinkerer at CR 1.5, and kobold witch at CR 5. A winged kobold in the monster manual will have an AC of 13, HP of 7 or 3d6 minus 3, and a speed of 30 feet, and a flying speed of 30 feet as well. They have a strength of 7, dexterity 16, constitution 9, intelligence 8, wisdom 7, and charisma of 8. They have dark vision and a passive perception of 8. They have sunlight sensitivity, so while in sunlight, the kobold has disadvantage on attack rolls, as well as on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight, and they also have pack tactics. The kobold has advantage on an attack roll against a creature if at least one of the kobold's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally is incapacitated. They use daggers with a +5 to hit and deal 5 or 1d4 plus 3 piercing damage, and a dropped rock with a +5 to hit and deal 6 or 1d6 plus 3 bludgeoning damage, although they have to be directly above the target in order to attack with it. A normal kobold in the monster manual will have an AC of 12, HP of 5 or 2d6 minus 2, and a speed of 30 feet. Their strength is 7, dexterity 15, constitution 9, intelligence 8, wisdom 7, and charisma 8. They have dark vision and a passive perception of 8. They too have sunlight sensitivity and pack tactics. They use daggers with a +4 to hit and deal 4 or 1d4 plus 2 piercing damage, and slings with a +4 to hit and deal 4 or 1d4 plus 2 bludgeoning damage. A kobold in the monster vault will have an AC of 12, HP 9, and a speed of 30 feet. They have perception of 8 and a stealth of 14. They also have dark vision. Their strength is at -2, dexterity +4, constitution -1, intelligence -1, wisdom -2, and charisma -1. They have pack tactics, so the kobold has advantage on attack rolls against a creature if at least one of the kobold's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally isn't incapacitated, and sunlight sensitivity. While in sunlight, the kobold has disadvantage on attack rolls and its perception is 3 when perceiving by sight. They use daggers with a +4 to hit and deal 4 or 1d4 plus 2 piercing damage, and slings with a +4 to hit and deal 4 or 1d4 plus 2 bludgeoning damage. And then my favorite of the bunch is the Kobold Witch in the Monster Vault, which has an AC of 13, 126 HP, and a speed of 30 feet. It has perception of 12 and a stealth of 13. It has dark vision. It has a strength of -1, dexterity +3, constitution +1, intelligence +0, wisdom +2, and charisma +7. They also have pack tactics and sunlight sensitivity. As a bonus action, they have Scurry. The kobold moves up to 15 feet without provoking opportunity attacks. If the kobold is aware of traps in the area, the kobold can choose if this movement triggers any of them. They also have Witch's Cauldron as a bonus action. The kobold witch ladles steaming brew out of a small cauldron it is holding and flings the substance at one friendly creature it can see within 15 feet of it. The target gains 5 or 2d4 temporary hit points until the start of the witch's next turn. In terms of actions, they have multi-attack, so the Kobold Witch makes 3 Eldritch Burst attacks. It can replace one attack with a use of spell casting. They also have Eldritch Burst, so a melee or ranged spell attack +7 to hit, reach of 5 feet or range of 60 feet. One target is hit with 13 or 2d8 plus 4 force damage. And they also have spell casting. The Kobold Witch casts one of the following spells using Charisma as the spellcasting ability, with a spell save DC of 15. At will, it can use Disguise Self, Druidcraft, and Guidance, 2 a day for each, Command, Ray of Enfeeblement, and then once a day, Bestow Curse. As a reaction, they have Hex. When a creature the Kobold Witch can see within 60 feet of it makes an ability check, attack roll, or save, the target must roll a d6 and subtract the number rolled from that ability check, attack roll, or save. According to product descriptions, the monster manual has over 300 monsters, miscellaneous creatures, and NPCs statted. It clocks in at about 352 pages and provides additional information on creature types, although a brief description of it, stats, traits, actions, and legendary creatures. The Monster Vault has over 400 monsters, animals, and NPCs. It clocks in at 380 pages and provides additional information on creature types, stats, traits, actions, and legendary creatures, same as the Monster Manual, but it also dives deeper in how to balance encounters and creating encounters based on creature types with allies, traits, and themes, and encounter locations. That's going to do it for this video. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support the series, and subscribe if you would like to see more. I will see you guys in the next video.